guys around the league. Who you got at number 5? I'm going to put them on the board right here.
I want to start with the young, talented players in Philly, Embiid and Simmons. Both guys are exceptional at getting to the basket. Embiid has to stay healthy. And you think about Simmons, he really has to work on that jump shot where he can make shots from 16 to 18 feet out. We know how well he finished around the basket. Embiid is so talented, can go either way, finishes great at the basket. But think about Simmons, how well he passed the ball. He's such a good facilitator. And that Philly team, with having so many good players around them, a team that's going to do well this season.
I think a little bit more playoff success, you'll have them higher on your list probably in the future. So
I will, exactly. Still young.
What do you have at 4?
4, I know everyone's going to be looking at me crazy right now. I have the Splash Brothers.
What?
Yes.
They are the best shooting backcourt in NBA history.
But they lost a key piece in KD. So right now you talk about 2 guys that are exceptional, knocking down shots from the outside. Klay finishes well at the basket. Steph is so great off the dribble, knocking down shots from the outside. But the 2 of them, they play well because they know each other well. When you have 2 great shooters, they play off one another. And then you still have Draymond Green, who is a facilitator of both of these guys, who are excellent at running down the court. And they're going to find them. They're going to find him when he's open. He's going to find those guys. He's such a great passer. But just how they play off one another, and probably the best duo that plays without the ball in their hand. Always cutting, getting to the basket, making layups in the half court, but we know that lights out from the three-point line.
Yeah, that's a bit of a surprising one as far as how low. There better be some.
But every
people.
once in a while, your window will close. So maybe that window is closing for them right now.
Okay, number 3, who you got?
Number 3, I like the guys that just signed last night. We're talking about Kawhi Leonard and PG 13, 2 long, athletic guys. Both of those guys are exceptional at playing defense on the perimeter. And you talk about 2 guys that are shot makers that can take over a game at any point in time. And we just saw what Kawhi did with Toronto Raptors, how he was able to beat this Golden State Warrior team, the Philadelphia 76ers. And PG-13 was also in the MVP hunt, but another guy that can make shots. And now they can rely on one another, and they have such great depth around them. And that's what's going to make this LA Clipper team one of my contenders.
Oh, yeah, well, I tell you what, the advanced stats guys are going to have a field day with you because these 2, some of the most efficient offensive and defensive guys in the NBA, maybe there's an argument that they should also be a little higher, but who do you have?
Could be, but they have a 2-time champion and have a guy that hasn't won a championship. My number 2 would be KD and Kyrie. Both of those guys are the best shot makers, especially with the ball in their hand. We know they can make threes from the outside, and Kyrie is a champion in himself, and KD is a 2-time champion, 2-time Finals MVP. So we know what he can do when he gets back to form. And yes, he had a devastating injury, but KD can take over a game, and Kyrie, both of those guys are able to take over a game at any point in time. But just that they want to play one another. There's nothing better than 2 guys that are great friends. They're happy, and when you put those players on the court, they can compete at a high level. And like I said, both of those guys are champions.
Playing devil's advocate, looking at the defensive side of the court, and you're 3 and 2. How much did you factor that into the equation?
I did, but at the end of the day, you got to go with what you think is best. And I like I like my 2 and 3, and I like it because one duo has 3 championships, and the other one has 2.
I think you just like the bucket getters. That's what I think.
I love guys who put the ball on the floor and create opportunity for themselves as well as their teammates.
All right, let's reveal your number 1 spot. Who you got?
Well, I'm going with a Kentucky guy, of course, AD, which I hate to say this, but LBJ. That guy is so great at being a facilitator, but just being able to take over the game at any point in time. And if AD stays healthy, he is a difference maker. He's a top 5 player. He can knock down shots from the outside. We know how he finishes at the basket. He also protects the rim, and he gives LeBron another player that he can trust. And when you have a player that you can trust, it means a lot to a guy who's won championships himself.
So looking at your list, just got a question for you. Giannis, Chris Middleton. What about those 2 guys, all-stars in the East? MVP.
If they were the top 6, they would be 6.
Gotcha. Very close. Tony Delk, we love your top 5 duos in the league. Love being a duo with you right here on NBA TV. All right, coming up next, we take you around the Summer League and we go up, and away in the Battle of Los Angeles. Steve Ballmer has owned the Clippers for a short period of time, but in that 5-year span, his Clippers have owned the Lakers, winning 16 of their 20 head-to-head matchups, including reaching the playoffs 4 times, while the Lakers still on that drought. Now with 2 MVP candidates from last season heading to play together on his team, we can only expect that rivalry to increase. Let's welcome in Mike Bresnahan, who's an analyst for Spectrum Sports in L.A. So the Lakers strike out with Kawhi Leonard. They still have LeBron James and Anthony Davis. They also were prepared with players lined up as soon as Kawhi made his decision. Shooting clearly a priority this offseason for the Lakers, adding veterans with career averages over 35% from three-point range. Quinn Cook, Danny Green, Jared Dudley, Troy Daniels. Why was this so different from their approach last offseason with three-point shooting as a priority?
I'll tell you what, it's been a couple years in a row now where the Lakers have finished 29th in the NBA in three-point accuracy. And last season, they had to work so hard for their points because they just couldn't rely on anything behind the arc, which, as we know, is the huge trend for the last 10 years in the NBA. I think they got tired of that. They said, look, we need some easy buckets. We need to go after a guy like Quinn Cook, a guy like Jared Dudley. Just kept going and going after shooters. Danny Green, obviously, 2 years and $30 million. I'd say he's a pretty good shooter from behind the arc. So I think they're trying to get easier points, and they're realizing if LeBron and AD do a pretty good two-man game, they'll be able to kick it out to a bunch of guys who will be wide open for some threes.
Including Boogie Cousins, who as a 5 can shoot from outside. Now just a year and a half removed from his Achilles tear, he's still only 29 at the start of the season. Did the Lakers buy low on a guy with a tremendous ceiling?
I think they did. I think it's a pretty good value contract, kind of a potential low-risk, high-reward. It's bizarre for Boogie because last summer he signed a 1-year deal thinking, all right, I'm going to rehab my image on the court and my ability, obviously, with the coming off that devastating Achilles injury, and it just didn't always click with him at Golden State. Obviously, he had that quad injury as well. So what does he do? Signs another 1-year deal, another contract year for a guy who is still under 30. I think it's a pretty big pickup for the Lakers. And if this guy can get back to what he did for Golden State, which was 16 points, 8 rebounds, hit some threes here and there, get some dimes here and there, that's a pretty good value pickup for the Lakers.
Well, Anthony Davis and Boogie, we saw part 1 with them in New Orleans. They were around a 500 team together, but that was just over half a season with them both on the court. However, Boogie and AD put up MVP caliber numbers together. Do you get the sense that they have unfinished business?
I do. That's a great point. And now they add a guy like LeBron James to that duo. And I just think it's a very nice pickup for the Lakers. Obviously they waited 6 days to hear that, nope, Kawhi Leonard is not going to be coming their way. And they had to drop down to not just plan B or C, but probably plan D because so many other options were already off the table. Huge flurry of free agent pickups on that first night and then that second day of free agency. When you get a guy like Danny Green, who obviously came with some circumstances, he was waiting to see what Kawhi Leonard would do. And when we all saw what happened, Danny Green, a quick pickup by the Lakers, pretty good value there as well. And then you had a guy like Quinn Cook. Don't know a lot about him, but when he had spot starts for Golden State, he could put up points in a hurry. Shot over 40% from the three-point line last season. So they're definitely going for shooters and scorers, and a lot different from last summer when they went for defense.
Historically, the Lakers have been the big brother and the LA Clippers have been the little brother. But since Steve Ballmer took over as owner of that team, it's the opposite. The Clippers really own the head-to-head record. And now the Clippers get Kawhi Leonard, who the Lakers were chasing, and Paul George as well. Is this rivalry going to increase in how it's been over the past couple of years?
You know what's funny? I remember several years ago when Byron Scott was the Laker coach. Somebody asked him at a random practice the day before they played the Clippers. They said, Byron, is this a Clipper town now? Is this still a Laker town? And he laughed. He said, come on, hold on a second here. But now I think there is actually a legitimate rivalry. All the Vegas odds makers are pointing towards Clippers and Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. How crazy would that be at Staples Center? There was a time about 10 years ago where they came close to potentially playing each other in a playoff series, and it just didn't happen. It hasn't happened in a long time, if ever. So it's going to be fascinating to see 2-on-2 LeBron and AD versus Kawhi and Paul George. Just make sure you can see the stage. It's going to be awesome.
Wow, Western Conference Finals in the same building. I guess traveling won't be an issue for the media covering that series. Mike Bresnahan, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, anytime.
TD, you were a guy that excelled at catch and shoot threes. When you see the Lakers add 2 of the 4 best players at that particular skill last season, do you view the Lakers as having the ultimate complementary players with LeBron for guys that have that particular skill?
Absolutely. When you think about what's made LeBron a champion is that they surrounded him with shooters in Miami, and also they surrounded him with shooters in Cleveland. You talk about Danny Green being an over 40% three-point shooter, has knocked down a lot of clutch shots, also a champion in himself. He plays both sides of the ball, but if you're going to win championships, you got to have guys that can knock down shots from outside, and these guys are exceptional at it.
Let's discuss the other 2 guys on this graphic, because Malcolm Brogdon got a huge payday to go to Indiana. The Lakers clearly couldn't afford him. And then Seth Curry, 4 years, $32 million to Dallas. So if you're trying to figure out what are you going to do if Kawhi doesn't sign with you, it seems like they got 2 guys. They had 2 guys targeted that were ideal for their situation.
And you got to think about what has made him a champion over this time is that he has surrounded himself. If you think about what Pat Riley did, if you think about what Griff did, is that they made sure they had shooters around him that whenever he collapsed the defense, because he puts so much pressure on the baskets that you have to help. Now just about putting nice corner shooters out there and also wing shooters, and that's what they've done. And this